October 20th at the Back Alley here in Calgary, CanAm Pro Wrestling makes its return to the Back Alley, and one of the main men involved, and someone who I'm excited to have. I've chatted with him on different platforms before, needed a special occasion to bring him on here, and we certainly have that. It is Mark the Shark DiCarlo. Mr. Shark, how are you today, sir?
Well, you know what, Calgary Crusher Peter Klein, I'm very happy to be back with you from Calgary's professional wrestling capital of the world. And thank you so much for having me on. We've done some wrestling shows in the past in your long and illustrious career. And even remember having you in a wrestling ring a couple of times and getting some proverbial heat, not only from the fans, but from the Canadian Crusher, AJ Sanchez. And that was a most memorable evening. But thanks a lot, Peter, for having me on. And CanAm Wrestling mentioned on your worldwide podcast. We really appreciate it. And as you mentioned, next Wednesday, after a near 20-year hiatus, CanAm Wrestling, the legendary CanAm Wrestling promotion, returns here to Calgary, Alberta at the legendary Back Alley nightclub, the $1 million renovated Back Alley nightclub. It is fantastic, phenomenal, and I think everybody's going to have a great time. CanAm Wrestling historically ran every Wednesday at the Back Alley and all over Western Canada for many, many years, and we're very excited to bring back the CanAm Wrestling particular brand of professional wrestling and entertainment to Calgary, all over Alberta, and specifically next Wednesday to the Back Alley nightclub. Also, we are going to be having a show next Friday, the 22nd, at the Acadia Rec Center. For those of you that don't know where that is in Calgary, it's just east of the corner of McLeod and Heritage Drive. Great facility. And then Saturday night, we're out in the fantastic community of Chestermere at the Chestermere Community Association. And Peter, tickets for all three shows are available right now on showpass.com.
Nice. Getting the plugs in already. I'm basically done now. So True. Yeah, there's a few different ways to go with this. I guess, first of all, what may now the right time for you to get on board with CanAm Wrestling?
You know, I have a long association with professional wrestling in Western Canada and have worked for many promotions. Of course, was for a long time involved in Stampede Wrestling as a manager of the Shark Tank and the Sharkettes, and had a lot of fun in our years on the A channel from about 98 to 2003. And now is a good time to answer your question, with coming out of COVID and, of course, the government incepted option to participate in the restrictive exemption program. Our venues are participating, so when our fans come in, they with their ticket, they must show their proof of vaccination, medical exemption, or a recently had negative result from a PCR rapid test. And that's just the way that it is in our society right now. And we're happy to be given the opportunity to have shows once again. And I think that it's a good time. People are starved for entertainment, whether it's NHL, NBA, Major League Baseball, boxing, MMA. We finally have a opportunity here in Southern Alberta and all over Alberta to once again enjoy the fine art and great sport of professional wrestling. And we will, in CanAm Wrestling, beyond a shadow of a doubt, deliver, and the fans will love our show, and our talent is second to none. And I might add, Peter, that on our first set of three shows next week at the Back Alley, Friday at Acadia, and Saturday in Chestermere. All current and reigning CanAm Wrestling champions will be on the card and will be wrestling.
Nice. So yeah, let's get into it with some of the talent. Who are some of the names we should be watching out for when we go check out these three shows at the back alley at Acadia and in Chestermere?
Well, the current and reigning CanAm World Heavyweight Champion is a longtime veteran of the wars of professional wrestling. He calls himself the All-American. It's because he hates Canadians. The All-American Steve Rivers will be on all three shows. The CanAm World Junior Heavyweight Champion and a longtime Western Canadian, and for that matter, professional wrestling around North America and the world veteran, the Silver Badger and the Stampede City Samurai, say that 3 times quickly, Johnny Devine, I know one of your favorites, Peter, will be on the card. The CanAm Wrestling World Tag Team Champions, the Men in Pink, Steve Wild and Phil Frenzy. The recently crowned out in Elkton, at the Elkton Campgrounds, we had a fantastic couple of shows out there in the summer. The current and reigning Stu Hart Memorial Champion just got back to Alberta from a very successful tour of Mexico, Sweet Daddy Soul, and the CanAm World Women's Champion, Sexy Samantha Slides, will all be on the upcoming CanAm Wrestling shows next week. Wednesday at the Back Alley, Friday at Acadia Rec Center, and Saturday at the Chestermere Community Association.
A lot of alliteration in there. That they got they're putting the ring announcer to work, hey?
Well, you know what? Some would say I have a great face for radio, and others would say that I talk too much. But hey, the ring announcer and the official voice of CanAm Wrestling has to be able to speak succinctly and with a wide variety of knowledge on all topics concerned. Just like you, Peter Klein.
I can do at least half of that. Yeah, I got the face for radio and the voice for newspaper. As far as wrestling in Calgary is concerned, I'm really excited about this because it's like we have promotions come in and to varying degrees of success and at varying levels. But it is kind of nice to have like a lot of the focus be Calgary instead of, hey, we're in Calgary once in a while. Like I'm excited that this is here and there is a focus on this city. As you said, the best professional wrestling city in Canada, despite what some people in Winnipeg might get. I know they might feel some type of way, but we still got that title on lockdown.
No question. And if you take all kidding aside, the hit, because there'll always be the Calgary, Winnipeg tete-a-tete of who's the best and who has been the best. And I won't go into the catchphrase that Bret Hart has because you all know it. But all kidding aside, yes, you're right, Peter. The in the last, for sure, 10 years, it's promotions based out of other cities that have, on a semi or regular basis, come into Calgary and run shows. We are a Calgary-based professional wrestling promotion, and not only are we going to be running regularly every other Wednesday at the Back Alley nightclub, we are also going to be running regularly in Edmonton. We are also going to be running regularly on a once-a-month basis, if not more, at the Acadia Rec Center, at the Chestermere Community Association. We've got shows booked and coming up in Airdrie, in Okotoks, in Sundre, and we just did a deal yesterday. We're very excited to have consummated a deal with the legendary facility on the Stampede grounds in Medicine Hat known as the Cypress Center. I remember in Stampede Wrestling going there to packed houses, and they absolutely, Peter, hated my guts, which I guess meant that I was doing my job. Yeah, no, the Cypress Center in Medicine Hat is a fantastic facility, and we have shows coming up there in November and December. On Thursday, November the 18th, and on Friday, December the 10th. And we'll have further information on all of our upcoming Alberta shows on, stay tuned to our social media channels, especially CanAm Wrestling on Facebook. And yeah, it's all there. And click on the event page or just scroll through and you'll find what we are doing in CanAm Wrestling and where we are doing it.
It does seem like just listening to you kind of describe it. It does seem like a really exciting time, and it seems like I said before, kind of it's kind of cliche, but it does seem like you guys are kind of hitting the ground running with this. How important was it for you guys to like, okay, we are doing this. This is a brand that people recognize, but we want to get the word out. How important was it to, instead of, okay, let's do a spot show here and a spot show here, how important was it 3 shows in Calgary in a week? Like, we're going to Manitoba, we're going to Medicine Hat, we're going to all these places. How important was it to just get out there right away?
Well, it was important to have our groundwork done, and I'm very happy that our ownership group and our office, if you will, made up of Otto Gentile and Ed Anderson and Johnny Devine and yours truly. It wasn't something that happened all of a sudden and overnight. There was much thought and a much business-like thought process put into what we were going to do, how we were going to do it, and there's a lot of experience. Otto ran CanAm Wrestling for many years. Ed's been in and around the professional wrestling game for a long time, and Johnny Devine has been all over Mexico and the United States, and of course was a former TNA World X Division champion and a lot of experience. So we perceive that collectively as fans, we think we know what our great fans and the fans of Alberta like in a professional wrestling show. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. And the groundwork was laid on the time that we're in right now, being able to run shows again, getting a good broad base of venues, sponsorship, and a plan. And the plan is not, as you referenced, a one-off, a show here, there, and everywhere, but a long-term plan, and that's what we have.
Yeah.
And it's not about just next Wednesday's show at the back alley. It's about letting the fans know what's coming up, short-term and long-term, where and who's going to be involved. And we're very excited to be next week's shows bringing in some great talent. The Alberta Wrestling Academy is exactly what it is. It's the training ground for a lot of young future stars that CanAm Wrestling runs on a regular daily basis. And the Silver Badger and the Stampede City Samurai, Johnny Devine, has his own professional wrestling school called the Canadian Strong Style Academy. So we're very well ingratiated and well-versed in grassroots level training of new talent and creating, ultimately, our own stars. And we've already done that with a lot of the talent that will be on next week's shows. And we're looking forward to our fans seeing the likes of Davey Disaster and the Canadian Badass and Rhino Reynolds and some or a lot of names that the local wrestling fans have never heard of, but you're going to be pleasantly surprised because this young talent is already very good, and we're very excited in the maturation of their careers within the parameters and the bounds of Stampede Wrestling, of CanAm Wrestling, if you will. God, I have to stop doing that. Anyways, and some of the talent that's coming in from elsewhere, a long time NWA Canadian champion and ECCW champion definitely one of the, in my humble opinion, top 5 performers over the last decade in Canada. Scotty Mack is coming in for all 3 shows next week, and we are very excited to have Scotty Mack in CanAm Wrestling. He historically doesn't make too many trips outside of BC, but he is going to be here next week. The headline, Sean Martins, a hated heel who always gets under the fan's skin, will be here next week. As I mentioned before, the current and reigning Stu Hart Memorial Champion, who just got back to Calgary from a very successful tour of a number of promotions, including AAA in Mexico. Sweet Daddy Soul will be here. Sydney Steele, a Alberta veteran. So many other great talents will be on the show next Wednesday at the Back Alley, Friday at the Acadia Rec Center, and Saturday at Chestermere. And moving forward, there are a lot of shows coming up in December and January, and on a monthly basis, once all the groundwork and planning and booking of talent has been laid down, we expect, and we are going to, in CanAm Wrestling, have a full monthly calendar of shows across Alberta and then across Western Canada. And we're very excited. And I might add, Peter, if I might, starting soon, and we are going to be recording all of our matches at all of our events. But starting soon, we are going to unveil what is going to be called CanAm Wrestling Slam TV. It is going to be a weekly wrestling show on our YouTube channel. Slam TV is going to be fantastic. It will give the opportunity to the fans to become more familiarized with CanAm Wrestling, with our talent within the promotion, and our storylines on an ongoing weekly basis. And it'll be fun. It's free. And yeah, we invite everybody to stay tuned to all of CanAm Wrestling social media channels. And Slam TV actually is up with limited content so far on YouTube. And it's going to be fun. And who knows, when it's time for the office to consider talent for the on-air broadcast team, maybe, and the Shark says maybe, the Calgary Crusher, Peter Klein, might find time in your busy schedule to make a couple of guest color commentary appearances.
Yeah, well, my schedule opened up a few months ago, so yes, I think I'd be able to find some time for that. That's all very exciting. And in there, I thought of like 8 different questions to ask while you were going through. One of the things that I really appreciate about this, and one of the things that I'm most excited for, is, as you know, because like you said, you've been in professional wrestling for forever and a day. It's one thing to be in an academy, and it's one thing to do the training, but it's another thing to get out there in front of people, and then it's another thing to do it with cameras rolling for the internet as well. People haven't, or wrestlers and performers haven't really been able to do that over the last 18, 19 months. So I guess just from an inside perspective, how important is it now for these young performers who are developing, who are the future stars in this province, in this country, on this planet? How important is it for them to now get these opportunities on a regular basis in front of real life, actual human beings?
It's very important, Peter. And it's one thing to train and learn how to bump and administer holds and maneuvers and receive holds and maneuvers. And work in front of the live audience with your opponent, and certainly be afforded the opportunity to eventually be given some mic time and what we call put yourself over as a character, and let the fans know what you're all about, what you think of them, what you think of your opponents. And it's very important. And professional wrestling, as you're very well known, as your viewers do as well, it's not only what you do in the ring, it's how you present yourself and how you profess to be, not only as a performer, but as a character. And as we all know, in and out of the ring makes up the whole persona of your professional wrestling character, and the opportunity for younger talent to learn from our fantastic veterans that we have within the promotion, and hone their skills in and out of the ring, on the microphone, in front of the camera, I think is invaluable and will be the barometer as to who succeeds and who doesn't.
Last one for you here, and thank you very much for your time. I always enjoy these conversations, and I always get very excited about the wrestling industry after we talk. But I guess just your thoughts on the wrestling industry as a whole. Since the last time we spoke, a lot has changed on the wrestling landscape. There's another promotion that's making some noise on a global scale. What do you think of the health of the professional wrestling industry in 2021?
You know, coming out of the pandemic, and not that we're out of it, but coming from no crowds at any live professional sporting or wrestling events, and of course WWE and All Elite Wrestling did their shows, WWE in the Performance Center and the Thunderdome scenario in Tampa, and AEW at Daly's Place in Jacksonville. With firstly no fans and then a limited amount of fans. It was very difficult to navigate through that time where, WWE was using piped in crowd noise and then their massive video walls, and to give it a, kind of a feel of the way that it used to be. And I think they did a good job. I think that it was a bit of a time where the talent was getting used to working in that environment. I think for AEW, they went faster to the return of a larger live audience at Daly's Place in Jacksonville. But as far as the now both promotions back out full force in if not packed, then certainly the majority of full arenas. I think it's a very exciting time. As far as the upstart or new promotion, All Elite Wrestling, of course, owned by the Klein family, who owns an English Premier League soccer team and stadium, and of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the National Football League and the stadium that they play in. So money is no object for the Klein family, and unlike WWE, which is a publicly traded company, they're still a private company. And I think that given the circumstances that they've done a magnificent job on staging, production, talent. It's pretty plain to see that they've brought in a lot of talent, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole. I heard that they were in high-level negotiations to bring in as their original color commentator the Calgary Crusher, Peter Klein, but they couldn't afford you.
Right. Yeah. That was the issue. Yeah.
And I you and your agent were asking for a ton, and they just caved. They couldn't afford you. But anyways, all kidding aside, it's an exciting time. And I think that, like the Attitude Era and like the Monday Night War era, competition is healthy. More jobs for wrestlers. Obviously the promotions in Mexico and the what are termed independent promotions around North America, Ring of Honor, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, so many others, New Japan, a bunch of promotions in Europe. It's all good for the wrestlers and it's all good for the fans. And I think that, if you want to watch wrestling on TV or on the internet, there's choices every day of the week. And it's a fun time to be in the wrestling business, And it's certainly a fun time for the fans.
Yeah. And yeah, I've been saying for a while that this is a golden time for watching professional wrestling, and it gets a little bit better October 20th at the back alley as CanAm Wrestling returns to the back alley once again, because you sell it a lot better than I do. So once again, if people want information on this event plus the one next Friday in Acadia and Saturday in Chestermere, how can they go about finding that?
Two ways. Go on our social media channels. Facebook is updated multiple times on a daily basis. Showpass.com is our online ticket seller, but also there are tickets available at the door at the back alley next Wednesday, at the Acadia Recreation Complex next Friday, and of course at the Chestermere Community Association next Saturday. And we're very excited to bring a smash mouth, old school style of professional wrestling back to Alberta. And all I have to say is, Peter Klein, thank you so much for what you do for professional wrestling in this market, and certainly having myself and CanAm Wrestling being afforded the opportunity to talk about what's coming up. And I say to you and everybody else that's watching, next week and coming up, come watch CanAm Wrestling and come get slammed.